Greetings and welcome to another exciting episode of the Why I Love Disney podcast. I'm here as always with my friends David and Easton. How are you, sirs?
Hey guys.
Hey.
Good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I am just living this leaked data life over here. I wish I were sophisticated enough technologically to be able to access said leaked data, because I get so interested in stuff like this. I remember a few years ago when Sony was hacked by like the North Koreans and, all that stuff. There was just so much juicy gossip in there, and internal emails. It's awful. I wish it didn't happen. I'm sorry, but it did. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, Disney was hacked. Disney was hacked by the Russians, it looks like. You hear stuff like that all the time. You just roll your eyes. But it did happen, and it's finally trickling out to news media, some of the stuff that was leaked. And there's, I do feel bad, and I'm sure they're really upset, and there may be some embarrassing stuff. I haven't heard any embarrassing things yet. But as people who are fascinated and talk all things Disney, y'all, I hope you're not ever hacked again, because there's harm that is happening from this. I don't want to sound gleeful. People's personal information, especially employees, passport information, social security numbers, especially I read along the cruise line, some of that was leaked or obtained by hackers, and that's terrible. We never want that. But they're also coming out with some like internal Slack communications and some things. And there's Disney Plus numbers and strategies, company strategies that are leaking out there. And all the major news organizations this morning have reported on it. So let me ask you, have you read anything about it? What is your take on something like this when it happens?
Oh my goodness, what would Disney do if they actually had some negative publicity? Oh my goodness, it just was here's something else in a long list of stuff. I feel like, unfortunately, it's more negative than positive these days, and so it's par for the course, I guess.
Well, it's just crazy that all of this has happened, that they get all of this information. I think the scariest part about all of it is the employees and passengers, but employees having their information leaked like that. That's a really scary thing to think about, to have your passport and social security and all of your very, very personal info getting leaked just out of the blue like that.
When you guys hear that somebody has been hacked, of course, obviously these are criminals, but do you go, well, this company should have done a better job to protect their data?
Always. And I'll start there. You've got the email before, right? That says, sorry, your information was found in a data leak or something, some sort of hack, and you're gonna have to change your password. I've got many of those. Have you guys got those before?
I have.
Yep.
Apple and Google, it was really Google put me through it not long ago, where they made me change gazillion. Well, not a gazillion. I don't have many passwords, but a lot of my passwords I had to change, and it was very frustrating.
Yeah. Now, I will say this. There's a difference for me between the inconvenience of having to change passwords and actually having some damage done, like that ended up with a, I don't know, like a, what do you call it? Identity theft. Those right. Sort of things, or somebody got into a bank account and stole money. That stuff has happened. There are reports of that, but thankfully that hasn't happened to me. The extent of mine has been more very much due to changing passwords and more inconvenient stuff. However, I do have a story about a Disney Plus hack. Have I told you guys about this?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Okay, so this is earlier this year, and this is reported, this hack took place earlier this year. And I don't know if this is related, but my Disney Plus account, I'm logging into Disney Plus and I can't log in. You know how sometimes it logs you out and you have to do the QR code or have your two-factor authentication or put in your password again, whatever you have to do to get into it now. It always seems to change. I had to do this, and I was putting my password in and it would not let me back in. And it just wouldn't let me in. And finally, I got in through, I think, a code that was texted to my phone. And everything's in Spanish. And I'm like, my first thought is, what have my kids done? They're goofing off with our account, whatever. So all the menus are in Spanish. All of the you know, all this everything is defaulted now to Spanish speaking, you know, Spanish language. And so I just think this is really strange. Well, I go to find my shows, and there's no, like, you know, continue watching. It's all different. I go back to changing to get on my account. I think maybe I'm on one of my kids', you know, profiles. All of our profiles, they're either deleted or there's two with different names and different pictures. It's almost like I'm in someone else's account. And what I learned is that someone had got access to our account. And so I would change it back and change the password. And for like a week, we're going back and forth, changing it from English to Spanish. I'm like fighting with these people on my account. How wild is that?
We had
That's
that happen once with a shopping site, and my wife would see someone put something in the cart, and she would pull it back out of the cart. But I've not had it happen with Disney Plus. Now, I want to hear how that resolved, and then I'll tell you another story about my Disney Plus.
Well, the only way it was resolved is finally I reset the password, and I just kept making it more and more difficult. I'll probably never remember it again. You know, I have no idea. And ultimately, it just sort of, I think I did like a, you know, on my computer and everybody's devices, I logged everyone out, and then I imagine it happened. It was a hacker who kind of got in through one of my kids putting a password in a phishing site, that kind of stuff. I kind of feel like that's what happened, but either way, I didn't get the sense that Disney had like leaked my data or anything like that. But I do think I think there's a legal responsibility now. When you have customers' information that gets out of you have to immediately notify them. There are now criminal statutes in place, and that's why you get these things oftentimes, so you can mitigate some of the damage. So I thought that was really interesting.
When John David, my son, and I were at that Disneyland trip last year, the hotel we stayed in, the previous occupant had left Disney Plus in their name, and we didn't realize it. We didn't even realize it, I don't think, at first. Maybe it just worked, and then we were realizing the same thing. It's like, well, none of our stuff is here, and finally we realized it was just somebody else's had logged in and never logged out. So I do think they ought to have something like that logs you out, maybe if it's not your own personal device, because I think we eventually got out somehow and got back into our account, but it's so easy to leave your information plugged in places. I don't know if anybody could have hacked that from that, but
totally. It's something you never would have had to do or dreamed to do 10 years ago, you know? Yeah. Isn't that crazy? But yeah, there should be hotels especially should have like a thing, like a button they can push that just wipes everything clean, you know, after rooms turn over.
Yeah.
But let's go. So I say all that to say, so sad about the hack. I know there's damage that's been done, but let's talk about the juicy details for a moment.
All right. I haven't heard the juicy details. So did they give us any word about what's going to happen in Frontierland?
Well, apparently there is plans to just nuke the whole Frontierland. Like they're just not gonna. No, I'm joking. I'm making that.
No, actually, there probably is. So
there probably is. It just hasn't been reported yet. And I've been doing like a deep dive into what's been reported, and it's a criminal operation known as Null Bulge, has uploaded more than 1.1 terabytes of data in July. That included internal Slack messages, and I'm quoting from the New York Post right now, in which employees sound off on the company's battle with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
Oh my goodness.
That's all in there. There is stuff in there that has to do with revenue spreadsheets, detailing revenue generated from Genie Plus theme park passes. And would you like to know how much revenue Genie Plus brought Disney over 3 years?
Sure.
$750 million. $724 million is the revenue generated from Genie Plus, only from Magic Kingdom.
Oh my goodness.
Or only from Walt Disney World, I should say. That doesn't include Disneyland or any other parks.
Okay.
So we're looking at way over $1 billion of revenue. No. I'm sorry. Yeah, that is from Walt Disney World only. Only one park.
Okay.
Or all the parks at Walt Disney World, excuse me. Then there's a leaked document that included internal spreadsheets about Disney Plus, the company's television streaming service, as we've talked about many times. Would you like to know, according to the leak, how much revenue was generated in the first quarter of 2024?
Sure.
Love to.
$2.4 billion in revenue for the quarter which ended in March. This is reported again by the New York Post. Or 43% of the revenue generated by the company's direct-to-consumer business, which includes Hulu and ESPN+. And I think this is important and interesting because Disney reports these numbers quarterly, right, on their earnings call. But what they do is we've talked about this, they lump all of it in together, Hulu, ESPN+, and Disney+, and we never know, what's profitable, what's bringing in the most money. Well, this actually breaks it down. So this is why the information is new and interesting. According to this report, Disney+ by itself generated $2.4 billion in revenue, and that was 43% of the total direct-to-consumer business, which includes Hulu and ESPN+. Does that make sense? So that's the news. We now have it broken down.
Is that the Disney Plus that you can watch Hulu on, though?
Well, this is I assume that this is their internal, the way Disney breaks it apart. How much did Disney Plus make? How much did Hulu make? How much did ESPN Plus make? So I'm on the bundle, so I don't know how that's broken up, but this is the information how they internally break this up and figure out if something is profitable. That's my understanding of this. And so $2.4 billion in revenue for the first quarter, which is 43% of the revenue generated by their direct-to-consumer business. I don't know if that's good news or bad because I don't have any numbers to compare it to, but it's really interesting. There are also Slack channels that talk about future projects, both movies and early stage talks of movies and series that could come to Disney+. There are also park information and projects that could be underway as well. Just a big data leak, man, just kind of out there. And I bet this stuff's going to be trickling out for a long time. So what are your thoughts?
Well, it's interesting, and I wonder what the motive of the hackers is. What do they get out of it?
I saw on one of these things that it seems this person is Russian, this hacker. Again, everybody says that now. So, but I did read that in one of the articles, Russian hacker. And it says, one of them says it was a single hacker, like not a team of people, like one single person. I don't know. I'm just reading what these reports are saying. But the motive is incredible. But you can imagine, you almost think maybe there was a ransom or some sort of blackmail sort of situation going on. But maybe nowadays, people find enemies and they just like, hey, this will be fun just to leak all this stuff, and man, who knows the motivations?
Well, that's because that just tells you like what information could be leaked. It's like if you've got all this information, but you're disinterested. Like if you're a Disney vlogger and you get this information, well, you're going to use it to your advantage to leak stories that no one else knows. But around the world, what does this hacker want? Does he want money? Does he want the thrill of knowing he's putting out information that they don't want out? Does he even know? Does he even know what he has?
I'll bet he knows what he has. You know what I mean? Like to be sophisticated enough to do something like this and to target a company like Disney,
to know what they don't want out.
Yeah. It's I'd love to know this person's motive. We'll probably never know who it is.
You'd have to be really in tune with the U.S. political, cultural environment and the whole Disney environment.
Or he could just be a big Marvel fan, wanting to know what's coming out. I mean, what if it was that simple? Just some nerd at his computer is like wants to know like the plot of Secret Wars. What if that was it? And we get all this from that.
That'd be a really climactic story,
or the most epic thing ever. You know what I mean?
True.
Like he does all his buddies. Yeah, I know how it ends. Let me tell just the guy can't wait till Christmas. He's like this kid always found his Christmas presents early. There was no getting anything by this kid. The whole documentary on this hacker is going to be amazing. If that's the case.
He's not really a criminal. He's just an overzealous fan who had to know first.
It's Gru from over there, and it actually it's the Universal people. It's probably what it is. It's Gru. He's a supervillain, and he's going after Disney.
There you go.
Yeah, conspiracy theory. It's someone at Universal who's using a VPN to make it seem like they're from Russia.
That's exactly what it is. Yes.
In the news, there's a story lately of a couple that has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars annually at Disneyland to be a part of Club 33, which is Disney's private restaurant, bar, club area for wealthy private guests. And it's very hard to get in. And it's, I think their annual dues for this couple was 30-some thousand a year. This is a couple that's also spending thousands and thousands on food and hotels and tickets and bringing friends and enjoying the upper status of being a part of an exclusive club in the parks. And they did a couple of things to get let go from the park. The Disney guards felt like the husband was intoxicated at one point in public, and I think she's done a few things to get reprimanded for her language in the private areas a few times. And so they were cut from the club, and they've been suing ever since, trying to get back in. And with the big news that came out this week was he has suspended his retirement to keep fighting this lawsuit, and she said that she's willing to sell a kidney if that's what it takes. And so it's just been a lot of fan response of like, I love Disney, but I don't know about my kidney. You know,
here's the thing. I'd love to read the legal briefs on that and I'm going to have to educate myself a little more on this, because it seems to me you're a private company with a private club. You can let in or keep out anybody you want for about any reason other than like civil rights things, right? Like,
I think so.
I would love to read their reason why they feel like it is unjust for them to be left out of Club 33. You think all the money that's spent, that they spend, Disney's probably got to have a pretty good reason,
Well, if those were their two reasons, was he was intoxicated and she used profanity, I'm shocked at how much profanity I hear in the parks when I'm there, but I'm never surprised how many people I see intoxicated. Because
as we know, you are a Club 33 member, so we.
No, I'm not. But I'm just talking about just in the park.
That's what you would say if you didn't want people to know.
Go to Epcot in the evening, and you just see people that are drinking and have had quite a bit. And I've seen both, and so I'm kind of surprised. Like, that gets you when you've spent you're spending. One quote said upwards of $125,000 a year with Disney, and they let you go, and it's because you had 2 or 3 drinks one night and got held up by the guards, and you used some profanity. That I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure. And again, Disney's not the one that reported why they kicked them out. It's probably them, and I'll bet there's a little more to it than that. Just the way you frame it.
I do think there was an article that said that the guards even that caught him or whatever, or held him accountable, don't work for the company anymore, but that security guards are always probably going to have authority over a guest. I mean, you're going to have to prove, at that point, that the guard was wrong. That's going to be a hard thing to do.
Well, so, the other thing to keep in mind too, if Disney's been fighting this legal battle for 5 years, you know what I mean? Like, it's not cheap for them either.
Yeah, I think that's right. I may be not exactly right on the amount of time, but it doesn't sound like something just happened recently. They've been trying to get back in for a while.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Since it's a data leak day, right? The Disney leak is what we'll call it. Listen, if you could just pour through the data, what would you most like to find in there and get your hands on of everything you could be in there? I'll give you a second to think about it, and I'll go first.
Man, honestly, I would love to go through and find out.
Or you can go first.
Oh, you go first.
No, that's all good. That's all. I was going to give you a moment to think.
I knew immediately what I wanted.
All right. Well, go for it, David.
Oh, no, I'll go last. I want to go last now.
Okay. Sorry. So I would love to get the internal Slack of the board's communications the night that Chapek was let go and that Iger was rehired. Because I have a new conspiracy theory that I've sort of developed through all of this Why I Love Disney podcast, all the research all the crack team of researchers we have working to pour all the information into this podcast week to week, right? Here is you want to hear my conspiracy theory that I think I could finally confirm if I had access to their Slack channels?
I would love to hear it.
Yeah.
Bob Chapek was set up because Bob Iger, we all know he never really went away. He still kept his office. This was all plotted out. And the reason they needed Chapek, I even think it goes to the TikTok guy, the guy that went to TikTok that should have been the CEO. He kind of knew this was all going to happen. He saw Iger's not going anywhere, so he jumped ship and bailed, right? And so they put Chapek in there because they need somebody to take the hit for Genie Plus. They know it's another $1 billion they can make. They know it's so much, but Iger knows it's going to be so unpopular that he's going to step aside for 2 years and let Chapek roll it out and take all the hits. And Iger can come in and be like, oh, we'll make it a little cheaper. Oh, we'll just streamline it. We're going to fix it. We're going to make it to where you're going to, and he gets to be the hero. I think that's my conspiracy theory. And I think if I had access to this data hack leak, I think I could confirm that's the case.
Well, I think you're probably there's probably a lot of truth in that. That's just my guess that there maybe it's Genie Plus and a lot of things. I think he definitely let Chapek take the fall for a lot of things that were his decision. So I
hope Chapek gets a little royalty from that $750 million that Disney World made on Genie Plus.
He has that non-disclosure agreement for a reason, probably. So I think that it's there's a lot of things that he took the flack for that were always Bob Iger's involvement, and he was really only in charge for a few months. I don't think, and I don't really think he was ever completely in charge, because I think Bob Iger was always there, and that's because there are multiple sites that report that stuff, that people know that he never left his office. He was always there. He was always in the executive suite. He was never gone. So, I would agree with that.
I haven't recently read a report. Tell me if you know this about them. I don't want to get sidetracked, but that Chapek was pressured in to making the political comments at DeSantis by Iger. That Iger's looming in the background was the reason that Chapek dipped his toe in famously that led to all of this stuff happening. Have you heard that?
That's the way it seemed when it played out. It was like, because he didn't do that at first, and then Bob Iger, who always leans towards the political stance, puts his 2 cents worth in, and it kind of seemed like it put Chapek in a position where he had to make a comment, and so it started the whole thing. And then he gets blamed for it, and again,
yep,
he's just trying to. But again, who knows? I don't know him. There are so many people that blame Bob Chapek for everything, but there are definitely people out there now that are reporting the other side, and that have way more people, like you said, that have people cracking the case and digging into this news, and that definitely would say he was set up to take the fall.
Well, we're going to find out soon. Getting this data leak, get them Slack channels, get them out.
All right.
We'll know soon enough. So what would you, Easton, hope to find besides the end of Secret Wars? Because that's what the hacker obviously wanted.
Yeah, that's what the hacker was looking for. That's
Scripts
what I
and all that.
for.
Where would you go first? What are you hoping to find out in the data leak?
Oh, man.
When I say hoping, this is all fictional. We don't really hope this.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. We're just saying this is all for fun and entertainment.
I think the first thing I would look at is I would look more into this Disney Plus stuff, assuming that Disney Plus alone brought in 43% of their streaming revenue in that first quarter seems wild, because I feel like all year we've been talking about how bad Disney Plus has been, because they're not the year of the Marvel shows was a big year, I feel like, for Disney Plus, because those shows were incredible. But this year it seems like nothing worth watching has been on there. I mean, all three of us have talked about how we're spending less and less time on Disney Plus because there's not really anything worth watching. So I think it's wild that these leaks are saying that they've brought in, that alone has brought in 43% of their revenue. If you're splitting it across Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN, normal statistics would show that they would bring in 33% and then the other two would bring in the other 66, but they're bringing 10% more than, which is wild. Like I feel like Hulu would bring in the most right now because that seems like where everyone's watching, and then ESPN would come in second, and I would imagine Disney Plus would be skating by. So that's what I would look into. Is I would want to know how exactly they're breaking down all of their numbers.
Yeah, I'm a little confused by that too. I really don't understand how they divide those things up, because sometimes I feel like they do it even to themselves to pretend that something's more profitable by putting something else that is profitable in the same pot and calling it another thing. So I'm not sure. That is interesting.
Well, David, what are you hoping to find in there?
Well, what if we found out that the end of Endgame, when Tony Stark, Iron Man, snaps his fingers, the next new movie starts with that scene, and Tony Stark suddenly jolts, and it's just Pepper snapping her fingers to wake him up, and it's all been a dream. And he's still Iron Man, and everything. None of that really happened. It was just a Wizard of Oz fever dream, and he's going to be the star. He's going to be the star of the next phase as Iron Man again.
I think I would walk out.
No, I think what I really wish would happen, what I really wish would get leaked, was that we find all these amazing, incredible plans. That's what I would really like to find. I would love to find that what's really happening is brilliance and excellence and spending on the parks, and some great movies that aren't sequels, and some great Imagineers and directors and script writers are being hired that write great stuff that everybody can enjoy, and we stop being, I don't know, whatever you want to call it is lately, and go for the home runs on every area. That's what I'd really like to see. I'd love to see that Magic Kingdom's not going to tear down to build, but that they're going to expand like they should. I'd love to see Hollywood Studios expand. Saw again about how much space there is there and how much parking there is there, and there's just so much they could do in all these parks that don't have enough to do, and I'd love to see that get leaked, but I doubt it's going to be that.
Well, interestingly enough, there's also some news. Again, all the information, we'll see what comes out, but this is all for fun and entertainment purposes. But there is another bit of news that I found interesting, that Disney is in a battle with DirectTV to reshape the bundling. And the big news, the thing I take away from that headline is people still have DirectTV. Because it made the news. So I didn't even know that was still a thing, but apparently it is. And Disney is definitely, you see this playing over and over. They're holding DirectTV over the fire to get more money for ESPN. And they took they went dark. Like DirectTV kicked Disney and all the ESPNs off the service. And it went dark like right before the college football season started on last Saturday.
That's a bold move.
That's exactly what they did with Spectrum, right?
I think the same thing. Yeah,
it's the same, and that's DirecTV is AT&T's cable service, correct?
Well, I think it's a satellite service, right?
Right, but it's through AT&T. Yeah,
I have no idea. Interesting. They always get it worked out, but every time that happens is the services lose more customers. Like Disney's not losing customers over this. The people that provide your television are the people that lose, because that's the people who get the call. No, there's no Disney hotline. Hey, why are you charging our nobody likes their cable provider. Nobody does. Nobody likes their satellite. You know what I'm saying? So the content provider always wins in these battles, always. And ESPN is going to make more money. And especially when you're talking about live sports, the only thing that would make me upset if I sat down to watch a UK football game on Saturday and I couldn't access it because my provider wouldn't pay for it after I'm paying them all that I pay them, I would be really upset. Really upset. I'd be upset. I use YouTube TV, and I'd be upset at YouTube TV if I couldn't see my game on Saturday.
But last time with Spectrum, what they did was when it went dark, they put up a sign that said, Disney did this. Disney pulled their programming from us, and they were a little bit more transparent and right up front said, this is what they're asking us to pay, and we're not paying. We're not agreeing. And then they ended up reaching a compromise. They didn't just bow. So it's going to be interesting to see what DirectTV does, because I didn't get the impression that Spectrum just bowed. It felt like that in the end, people ended up getting Disney Plus for free. I mean, Spectrum, isn't that right? Didn't Spectrum?
I don't remember that.
Spectrum subscribers ended up getting Disney Plus free for a while. And it was like, well, what was the whole purpose in this?
So it's always interesting to see how these battles do take place. Who's playing hardball, and the whole landscape is changing. I mean, it just is, and how these things play out. Everything's going to an internet-based television service. It's just more and more, and we'll see what happens. But I always find it interesting when these things happen, and the strategy of, hey, let's pull the SEC games off right before they start to make the biggest impact possible. It's kind of funny. But
again, I wish that all the energy that went into this kind of stuff was going into great creativity, and that's the thing that, and kid growing up in the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and all that, we just did stuff like this was not what Disney was known for, and now it's just constantly seems like, well, this is the news. This is the news we get. So I want to get back to the days when it's all about the incredible things that they're doing that make you want to go to the theater and make you want to go to the park.
I totally agree. Just out of curiosity, having done no research on this. I've done none at all. But have you heard anything else, any more information from the park news over the last that was revealed at D23? Any continuation or confirmations?
No, I've just been following the same things. Even yesterday, some of the bigger vlogs that I watched, including like Walt Disney World News Today and several others, are still saying it hasn't been officially. Some of the things from D23, like Monstropolis, where it's going to go, haven't been officially told yet. Walt Disney World News Today is still saying it's going in the animation courtyard area and not the Muppets area. But again, they're still holding firm that Frontierland is going to be completely redone, and all those things are going to go through. So it always again interesting to hear the things that people will just be adamant and like that something like Frontierland as an environment is not important to people, but that Muppet 3D is like Jim Henson's, as I think the guys from Walt Disney World News Today said, like it's his epic legacy is Muppet 3D. And I go, well, first of all, to me, Jim Henson's greatest Muppet legacy is still the Muppet Show. I mean, it was pretty much the crowning jewel of what they did, and unfortunately it's a little dated now, not because of the Muppets, just because if you go back and watch those shows, most people won't even know who these actors and musicians who are the guests each week are. There's some still classics like Julie Andrews and Elton John, but there are a lot of those actors and actresses that aren't even with us anymore that a lot of people wouldn't know. And but still, to go, wow, this attraction at Disney World is Jim Henson's crowning achievement. I don't know about that. But again, there are people that think that's the worst thing that could go, and some people think that reimagining Frontierland would be the worst thing. So interesting, but no, I don't think anything's been nailed down yet.
Well, it'll be curious. I'd be really curious to see what we find out as it moves forward. But there is a bit of good news that I saw in the news as well, having to do with the parks. And I was really surprised to see that Disney has resumed sales of its water park seasonal pass. You can do a water park only pass, and that offers guests unlimited access to either Typhoon Lagoon or Blizzard Beach. I guess they alternate when they're open. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
Now, you can right now buy a pass that will last through May 23rd of 2025 for $79, which is pretty dang cost effective. If you were going down there, if you're a Florida resident, that is something I would take advantage of, because a single day water park ticket is $74. So it just makes way more sense to get the season pass, and that might be part of their strategy. They see numbers waning. So how can we get people to come back more? And they're like, hey, let's get them a season pass where they'll come back and spend more money and buy more concessions and park and buy merchandise and those sorts of things. So I thought that was really interesting, and that is something my family would take advantage of if we were closer and going down there.
Well, and one of the things we've talked about with a lot of people always wanting another gate, because there are already 4 parks. When we go down, there's so many things I would really like to do, like a water park or go to one of the mini golf things or all these extra things they have, and there's just no time because you're standing in line so much already, and you're trying to make the most of the park ticket that it's hard to just say, hey, we're going to have a resort day and we're going to go enjoy the resort. It's like, man, because you're so busy. And so, man, there are a lot of things like that I would love to take advantage of.
I just find it interesting that it's a good PR move. Like you're announcing something that seems like, hey, here's a value for the consumer and for vacation goers. And you don't get a lot of that from Disney, So I think just from a PR standpoint, something like that they can put in the headlines and say, hey, look at this, is actually helpful for them while they gouge us on Genie Plus.
Bring more people in so that they can have longer hours and more days open and things like that.
Well, guys, that's everything on my list of news. I'm getting into the thing where we're in this lull kind of in the early fall where there's not a lot of news. There's no new movies out. There's nothing really to talk about, or fewer and fewer things to talk about. But I think we're the next episode, we're feeling like a top 10 list. We're going to need a top 10 list and maybe coming up, maybe do a bracket. We need a bracket here pretty soon, too, of something. So
I did see today that we're filming this, we're recording this on September 5th, which apparently is Lightning McQueen Day.
Ooh.
Because he's
Happy
number
Lightning
95.
McQueen Day, guys.
You too.
Happy
You as
Lightning
well.
McQueen Day. And, but I did see, I think it was yesterday, that the Lightning McQueen Racing Academy that's located there between Rock and Roller Coaster and Tower of Terror is going to be leaving very soon, and is going to be replaced with a Disney villain show. Right there in the middle of Old Hollywood, we're going to have a Disney villain show, and so that's going to be coming soon. Apparently, maybe I guess in 2025, but it's going to close pretty soon. And they announced that Maleficent, Cruella, Captain Hook, and I think Hades are going to come through the magic mirror and maybe do a song and dance. We'll see.
Interesting. Very interesting.
I mean, that Lightning McQueen show is kind of we did go in it once. You kind of sit there on a bench, and there's a lot of it's on screens. It's like a simulator, and he shows you how he races, and it's a Lightning McQueen animatronic. It's not as it's not like Radiator Springs and Disneyland, but it was something to go do and sit in the air condition for a few minutes. But I don't think was very well attended, especially for the size of that venue. They use it for other events and things in the past. So going to be reconverted into something that maybe gets more people in there. People love the villains. And
well, that's interesting because Magic Kingdom is getting the Cars land over there too in Magic Kingdom. So that was we can leave it, take it out of that, and move it over here and still have the presence there. But be interesting for sure.
Get a little villains action before the villains land gets opened at some point.
There you go.
A little taste.
Just a little taste. Well, guys, it's been fun as always. And to our listeners, we thank you for hanging in with us, and we appreciate you. We'd love to hear your feedback on what you think of. What would you like to find out in this Disney leak? What juicy info and gossip would you like to extract from that? Let us know. You can get a hold of us at whyilovedisney.com and also on Twitter and Instagram. As always, please leave us a 5-star review, share the episode with a friend, and until next time, so long.